So South Africa can't get body cams for its cops, but we're rolling out drones. You see, today we're unpacking the strange leap in our police tech priorities, the growing cracks under the JSE's big stock market rally, and also why our army general's latest stunt has Ramaphosa sweating bullets. And be sure to stick around for the Wildcard, where we revisit the night that South Africa changed the world of modern medicine. My friends, be sure to hit like and subscribe if you're enjoying the show, and with all that out the way, let's get into it. Have you ever wondered why South African police don't wear body cams? I mean, in many countries, they're standard kits, a simple tool that captures evidence in real time and, maybe more importantly, keeps officers accountable in the field. Now, in a country like ours where corruption and heavy-handed policing are routine complaints, body cams could have made a massive difference. Now, the thing is, SAPS has already given the nod for them, but the procurement process hasn't even started. I mean, I'm talking no supplier, no rollout plan, no timeline. And while that drags on, the next big initiative here is, and I'm not kidding, is drones. We have a new program that will train 100 officers as drone pilots over the next 3 years. So SAPS has confirmed that it is under pressure to modernize, for lack of a better word, as crime itself becomes more digital and global police forces are using technology to try and stay ahead. But with all that in mind, it does raise a rather obvious question, which is, why are we leaping to drones in the sky when we haven't even managed the most basic fix on the ground? So one of South Africa's top army officials has just created a political mess. General Wudzani Mapwanya, head of the South African National Defence Force, travelled to Iran last week without the president's knowledge and gave a speech pledging solidarity with Tehran, backing their stance on Gaza, and even suggesting common goals between the two countries. So here's the issue here. Our National Defence Force isn't supposed to dabble in politics. Its officers are bound by neutrality, and foreign policy is strictly the job of the presidency and international relations. Now, by freelancing abroad, this general stepped far outside his lane and arguably into the most sensitive environment possible. Now, what I mean by that is that South Africa is already on thin ice with Washington. As most of us know, the US has already slapped 30% tariffs on our exports, and Ramaphosa's team is trying to patch things up. Now, against that backdrop, our army chief cozying up to Iran, which is a country locked in direct confrontation with the US, risks making that job impossible. Now, as for Ramaphosa's diplomatic response on the matter, the presidency called the trip ill-advised. Opposition parties, on the other hand, want a court-martial. And with the general just months away from retirement, the real question here is whether he exits quietly or gets pushed out early. Now, on paper, the JSE is booming. Our all-share index, which is basically the big scoreboard for our listed companies, has been climbing, recently breaking through 100,000 points for the first time. But in saying that, this is mostly thanks to a handful of giants, resource stocks like gold and platinum miners, and tech heavyweights like Naspers. But now here's the problem. Look, if you had to build your entire team around one superstar, you look unbeatable when he's scoring, but the moment he's injured, the whole side collapses. And that's pretty much the JSE at the moment. When commodities shine, the index looks great, but when they dip, everything else suffers with them. And furthermore, beneath that scoreboard, the squad is also shrinking. You see, more South African companies are leaving the JSE than joining it, and Barloworld is just the latest to line up a delisting after its 23 billion rand buyout approval. Ad Hoc Ingram, as we've discussed before, is also set to go private. Then we have Trencor, Vest, AO, gone. I mean, even MultiChoice is on its way out once Canal Plus officially takes over. So I know a couple of you are probably asking the question, well, Christian, I'm not a trader, why does this matter to me? Well, it matters because the JSE is where pension funds and savings are invested, and so fewer listings and heavier concentration means less choice, more risk, and a market that is dangerously tied to the fate of a few big players. And before we cruise on to our Bagel Bite of the day, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. And don't worry, we're not going to talk about the South African sport. So for starters, South Africa and China have pulled off a first, a 12,900 kilometer quantum satellite link connecting Stellenbosch and Beijing. It's the longest intercontinental link yet, creating ultra-secure communication that could eventually pave the way for a global quantum internet. Vodacom's long-delayed 13 billion rand deal to buy 30% of Remgro's fiber unit Massive just cleared another hurdle, winning Competition Appeal Court approval. Now, only a CASA sign-off remains before the merger reshapes South Africa's fiber landscape. And the city of Johannesburg is set to repeal its controversial CCTV bylaw, which forces private security cameras overlooking public spaces to register with the city. Now, civil groups challenged it as unconstitutional, arguing that it already undermined crime-fighting technology already in place. And on to our Bagel Bite of the day. Let's see if you can start off the week with a win. The question is, what's the largest ocean in the world? Is it A, Atlantic Ocean, B, Indian Ocean, or C, Pacific Ocean? Bonus points if you know its record depth. And on to our wildcard section. Many South Africans know that Dr. Chris Barnard did the world's first heart transplant, but very few know how dramatic that night really was. So, on the 3rd of December 1967 at Grooteskier Hospital, Barnard's team wheeled in 54-year-old grocer Louis Washkansky, whose heart was giving out. Now, the donor was Denise Darvall, a 25-year-old woman who was fatally injured in a car accident, and her father had given permission for her heart to be used. So Washkansky went under anesthetic knowing that the odds were almost impossible, and by all accounts, he didn't expect to open his eyes again. Barnard's team worked throughout the night with the operation lasting 9 hours, and when the new heart started beating in Washkansky's chest, South Africa leapt from the operating theatre to the front page of every newspaper on earth. Now, sadly though, the victory was short-lived. Washkansky survived only 18 days before dying of pneumonia, his immune system just wrecked by the anti-rejection drugs. Still though, the precedent was set, and from that night on, the limits of modern surgery were never the same again. And as for that Bagel Bite, the answer is the Pacific Ocean, covering more than a third of the Earth's surface. Now, at its deepest, the Mariana Trench plunges 11,000 meters down, so if you had to drop Mount Everest in there, its peak would still be about 2 kilometers underwater. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is just your reminder that if you do prefer your news on the go, whether you're driving, running, training, whatever, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links to both of those are either in our description or our bio. I hope you guys all have a cracker start to the week, and I'll catch you all tomorrow for round 2. Cheers.